You are listening to www.integralnaked.org.
Hugely important. And let's just call it into the space for a second, right? And as Ken set up this really hugely important matrix of kind of the ethnocentric, right, interpretation of the spiritual experience, which kind of mythological God, we're in, they're out. Now, Peck, right, is basically unpacking, and I think, by the way, it was Peck's by far best book. It was a fabulous, fabulous book, People of the Lie. And it's, and he really unpacks the deep Christian dharma of Satan. That's really what he's doing in the book. And what he's kind of talking about this notion that once you cross that place, which I'll come to in a second, you've crossed that pivoting point, which you just referred to. Once you're there, then something kind of consumes you, and there's almost this ontological power, right, to this evil that just kind of is. And of course, his point is that it's not only in, Pol Pot and Hitler, but the 8 or 9 case studies he brings in that book are about actually, people that right, and maybe us, right. So in other words, but he talks about we occasionally see that kind of very real, unvarnished evil. And the question that what you didn't ask it as a question, you kind of brought it into the energy space. So let me just throw this into the energy space for a different conversation as well, just in that same space that you opened up. What happens in the moment before? So we don't have time to do it now, but I just want to throw in a meditation at you, which we do in our spiritual community in Israel. We ask that question. It's what causes that moment of fallenness of any kind? Right? It could be, I want to embezzle. It could be, I want to engage in sexuality, which for me, according to my own principles, is fallen. Not someone else's principles. According to my own principles, is fallen. Right? I want to engage in some act of lying. And so we do a simple meditation, which we try and hold the moment, and then go back 5 minutes. Go back 5 minutes. And we almost always find, as we go back 5 minutes in the deepest process we can access, that I hit a moment of emptiness. That actually I hit a moment where I felt emptiness. I either had early experience, it touched into some circuit of void, some circuit of emptiness, and then there's almost an nanosecond response to that, which is I want to fill that void. Right? I want to fill the emptiness. And the way we say it is, right, that all breakdowns in the ethical come from breakdowns in eros. When I say eros, I mean, of course, Plato's eros, fullness. So
it's also touching.
Right, touching.
Just what we said.
Touching.
Refusal to touch.
Refusal to touch.
Of eros.
Refusal of eros, exactly. Right? It's a refusal to touch. That refusal, right, or that feeling that I'm in this emptiness and I can't touch, right, that is so painful that I need to fill it immediately. And I fill it immediately with some kind of fullness, right, which comes from all sorts of places, that fullness. And that fullness is a false fullness. It's a pseudo-eros.
Substitute gratification.
Substitute gratification, right, but of absolute substitute gratification of enormous power. And what Peck adds to the conversation is that there's enormous kind of ontos. There's enormous power, right, so that evil is not just a kind of a technical behavior modification issue. Right, it's enormous power to it. Right, it's enormous power to it. But there's a moment, and you bring us kind of a hope here. There's a moment. There's a pivoting point moment. Everybody knows that. Once you've crossed a certain point, you are gone. Okay, but there's a moment before, and if I can hold in meditation, if I can hold that moment and see what's happening, right? I mean, I got it from chocolate-covered raisins. When I fast, I love chocolate-covered raisins. When I fast on Yom Kippur, the desire to have chocolate-covered raisins just kind of rises in me. And it always rises in me, I notice, right, when I kind of think of something unpleasant. Right? So usually I don't catch the unpleasant thought because I just have chocolate-covered raisins. But on Yom Kippur, because I'm fasting, I can't have the chocolate-covered raisins. So I kind of go back and I say, oh, what moved me to chocolate-covered raisins was this kind of unpleasant thought or this emptiness hit. And so that's this big thing. Can I catch the emptiness hit in time to not do an A-void dance, an A-void dance, to actually walk through the void? The only way around the void is through the void.